I found that products are a very tangible way to explain what zero waste living is or low waste living is. Because when you talk about climate action and sustainability, you always just kind of associate it with, it's so huge, it's so big, like what can I do?
Welcome back for another episode of The Voice of Generation Climate, the voice of Gen Z. Today we have with us a true sustainability champion, a climate warrior, Sahar Mansoor, who is the co-founder at Bare Necessities. Bare Necessities, for those who still don't know what it is a zero waste platform. And they've been fighting the good fight for the last, more than 5 years now. And I think you guys have been true champions, true trendsetters for what is only now starting to become like a big climate conscious consumption wave. We will dive into that in detail, but thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Annie, for thinking of me, and I'm so happy to just have a lovely conversation with you and learn more about what you're doing too.
So Sahar, what is Gen Z or the generation climate term that we've come up with at Climes mean to you?
I love it, first of all. I think that's so innovative. I think it's so cute. I think for me, it is just this, new generation who wants to start kind of aligning their lifestyle with all of their values. And that could be in, the way you consume, it could be the way you offset, it could be the way you plan your wedding, it could be, the vehicle that you pick to drive, how many days a week you want to use the metro instead, how you want to carpool. For me, it's just this new generation who is, wanting to be part of the solution and is making kind of strives in whatever way that they see possible to be part of the solution.
So when you were thinking of starting off Bare Necessities, what was Generation Climate like at that time? What feelers were you getting out in the market? Or was it just personal interest that drove you to build something for yourself?
Yeah, honestly, Ani, I think it was a lot of personal interest and less about everything that I see now on Instagram and life. When I started Bare Necessities, it's been almost 7 years, by the way. We're going to turn 7 in 2 weeks. And more informally started even before that, like a year before that. So 8 years, and I was working in the solar energy space at the time. I'd actually worked in rural electrification projects. It was super, super fun. But I decided that I would do one kind of flea market or pop-up every month. And I would add one new product a month. And actually just started with doing workshops around low waste living and, just having conversations around anyone who wanted to chat about low waste living. And I was quite a nerd like that. So I was like, oh, this is great. So anyone who's willing to listen, we would just do a little workshop and have a little chat. And slowly we would add one new product each month. And I think then it was a lot of young mums who were actually really conscious. They were reading labels behind the products that they were using and were looking for something new. But it was quite niche. It wasn't this kind of Instagram phenomena. And I felt that if I were to create a brand, I had to create awareness before I create a brand. And that was very apparent in my early days. Of the pop-up days, and that was way before Bare Necessities had a name or anything like that. So I think I'm really happy to see it grow, and I think the mushrooming lots of young brands. Sometimes people ask me now there's so many zero waste brands. You get upset that people are copying your style of packaging or labeling it the same or whatever. And actually don't mind at all. I think that's there's 7 billion people on this planet, and all of us need to brush our teeth. All of us need to shower. And if you have a more localized solution in your own city, you probably won't have to ship things from Bare Necessities in Bangalore, which is win-win, lower carbon footprint. And honestly, there's enough people for all of our solutions to exist. So I think I'm actually really happy and excited to see that the conversation is becoming way more mainstream now than it was when it was just me and a pocket full of my dreams, really.
That's amazing, because that really goes, it's true to one of your statements that you put out there, which is make zero waste the norm, not the exception.
Yeah.
And it's something that from the sustainability mafia side, we keep repeating to, which is make sustainability the default choice for all of humanity. So whether it's Bare Necessities or Climes or any other company that does it, doesn't matter. As long as somebody is doing it, right?
Yeah. For sure.
Getting cloned is in fact like great in
Yeah.
this cause, because it's not a zero-sum game,
Exactly.
right?
Honestly, like if there is less waste in the oceans and landfills, that is our mission solved. It's not for Bare Necessities to be the most profitable business out there, but don't tell any investors that.
So, when you started off 7 years ago, what was the first product you came up with?
Yeah, so for me, when I moved back home, I started to live with my mom.
Yeah.
And I love her so much, but obviously she has a different way of doing things and I have a different way of doing things, right? And over the past 6 years of living away. So I thought the best place for me to start would be my personal care routine and the things that I use in the bathroom, because obviously you have full control over, that aspect of your life with relative ease rather than like switching up the entire kitchen overnight, right? So for me, I started looking really into dental care, because what did people do before like plastic toothbrushes kind of became a thing? And obviously I'd have conversations with my grandma and ask her like, what would you do before like shampoo came in a plastic bottle, etc. But I got really into reading about neem sticks and miswak sticks, and I try to do that. And to be honest, I just hated the way it tasted. I just really missed the sensation of brushing my teeth. And at the time, we didn't get any bamboo toothbrushes in Bangalore. So I asked my sister to get some from Copenhagen, and then when she would come, she'd get me a bulk, and I would wait like 6 months before she, could get it to me. So my first thing that I did was a toothpaste. I also researched a lot about Ayurveda and how oil pulling is actually very native to our Indian culture and tradition, right? So essentially the idea is that you just take coconut oil or any oil that's local to you, and you essentially just gargle and rinse for 15-20 minutes, and it's meant to like really cleanse your kind of oral cavity. The oil actually also massages your gums, and it's supposed to be like really, really amazing. So I did a little bit of that, but then I also added a little bit of baking soda, added a little bit of peppermint essential oil because I missed the minty flavor that have been, advertised to us our entire life. So that was our first kind of product. And from there it just kept going one after the other. And all of the experiments really took place in my mom's kitchen. So bless her for being super, super, patient while I made a big mess in her kitchen. So, yeah.
That's incredible. I've talked to you so many times, and you've been sitting in that, call it lab, call it, the home kitchen,
Yeah.
where so much of that action and product has been made. And it's really cool, like, to have that op set up in this. It's kind of like this research factory, research engine, right? And then you have this really overcommitted team that's coming up with new ideas. So what more can enable more zero waste? Like, how's that journey transpired over 7 years that you've been at it? It seems in hindsight that there was some method to the madness, but oftentimes there really isn't, right? You're just kind of hearing the market and then building what the market wants. Which one is it?
Honestly, at first it was organized chaos. It was just like, keep going, because you also don't know. I was also a young entrepreneur, so I had lots to learn. And I think I was really naive when I began. So I honestly had never taken a business course. Like I had very little understanding of like what it takes to kind of start a business. So a lot of it was Googling, watching YouTube videos and figuring it out by yourself. But I'm so grateful for where we are now, because it's way more structured. And I also have some amazing people who are just rock stars in that particular domain. So for example, talking about product, the person who was our lead formulator went to the most premier formulation school and cosmetology school in Paris. So she's kind of the brainchild behind a lot of our products, and it's very scientific versus just like me, like, in my mom's kitchen in the early days. So this is, way more scientific. Lots of dermatological tests, go through all of the lab tests before we actually even launch. And I think so that's been really nice, from ideation to seeing how it kind of evolves. And then we all actually try all of the products. We have this giant Excel spreadsheet where we all kind of rank and, like, this deodorant didn't quite work for me, or this I loved, or I didn't like the fragrance of this. So it's really a process of co-creation. I also really enjoy a team meeting, seeing people use the products and see their initial reactions as well, because sometimes that's something that an Excel spreadsheet can't really catch, and you kind of just can see right away those initial responses. So yeah, we do a combination of all of those things of testing before we actually come up with it. But I'm really, really proud of our waterless formats of products. I think they're really smart. They make so much sense. You're essentially reducing your carbon dioxide emissions by 80 to 90%. We just give you a little sachet, like wee big, and you just put all of the ingredients into a dispenser that you might have already at home, or you can get that from Bare Necessities. And it's all like old wine bottles, repurposed glass, with a cork kind of pump, which is metal, stainless steel and metal pump. And the cork has like wax on it, so it kind of is more moisture proof. And essentially you just need to add water from your own tap at home, and you get hand wash, dishwash, and multi-surface cleaner. And the idea is that let's not ship water across the country, and let's just be a little bit more mindful of our footprint. And it's going really well. It's already become our bestseller. It's our newest kind of product, but it's already our bestseller. So that's been really fun to kind of create this waterless format range as well.
That's incredible. I just came back from Israel, by the way, like last week. So you should definitely send this product over to Israel, because they're all about waterless. Being more efficient with water, right? I think in India now we're starting to respect it a lot more, because we are becoming a water-starved nation. I think the idea of prevention at the source rather than later is so powerful, right? You don't even include it in the manufacturing process, so you don't have to deal with it later. And that, I think, is going to take a huge mindset shift. It's happening slowly, but it is through the lever of products that people use, right? That we start understanding the concept of like what went into making the stuff that I use. And what is my waste output going to be? Otherwise, we don't really understand, right, where waste comes from. So I think products are such a cool lever to make that point. And if you start communicating it as, hey, this is waterless, right? That's the only way people realize that so many of our products do use a lot of water.
Exactly. So I think that's exactly what you said, rightly said. When I thought about trying to live a more low-waste lifestyle for very personal reasons, I realized that I was getting one product from here, one product from there, and it was quite hard in early days. And that's why Bare Necessities was born, to kind of make it easy and accessible for anyone else who was also looking to consume more mindfully. But I found that products are a very tangible way to explain what zero-waste living is or low-waste living is. Because when you talk about climate action and sustainability, you always just kind of associate it with, it's so huge, it's so big, like what can I do? And, you can't see carbon emissions, right? Largely, you can't, really, can't see or feel it. But I think products and the way you live, by virtue of your everyday consumption, is a very tangible way to kind of drive home the message. And kind of institutionalize it from a household level and from like a day-to-day level. That's what really interests me. I do feel that corporates can be more responsible in the way they kind of package. Like you have this act of 2% of CSR money needs to go for on these 11 different metrics, or you could put it to the PM fund. But what if there was a mandate that said like X amount of percentage of your revenue needs to go into revamping your packaging to make it earth friendly, right? Or what if X amount of your budget could be spent towards being non-polluting ingredients? Or there's so much that could happen. And I think I don't know if this is a controversial thing to say, but I think for so long corporates have kind of put the message that it's your responsibility to do it. And I think I noticed it a lot in the 90s when they started to put that little icon of the person putting trash into the bin. But it's like, well, why are you designing it in that way in the first place? So for me, prevention is really important. Like I know, now when I do talk to a lot of people and they say, oh, we're recycling this is this. And I'm like, that's great. And I respect that for sure. But for me, the first idea in the order is actually to just reduce in the first place, right? So how can we actually design out waste and pollution is the first step. And that's kind of Bare Necessities' philosophy. So how much can we avoid and how much can we reduce and how much can we redesign in the first place to completely design waste out of the system. So that's just our little kind of 2 cents on that.
Oh, that's really, really powerful, because waste, there's this notion that waste is a design flaw. Right? So prevention at the manufacturing time leads to no or lesser waste later. which is
Exactly.
just so much more powerful on the ripple effect it has on the environment, right? And I don't know how and why we've gotten here. Like, I actually didn't even think about the fact that there was that icon that got planted on products in the 90s of the guy throwing
Yeah.
trash in a recycling bin. But you're right, it became standard. And that
Yeah.
conveys to people that it's okay to throw trash in a bin.
Yeah, but
It's
also
better than
shifted.
not.
Yeah. For me,
Like,
I think it's very powerful because I feel like it shifted the responsibility from corporates to people. Like you put the trash in the right place. But and then we had all these campaigns in school. I don't know if you did, but like in the 90s, we had a campaign like keep school litter free, keep Bangalore litter free,
Yeah,
and like all of this. But it's like, what if it was not designed with
it
plastic
wasn't there.
packaging?
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think that was in the 90s, and now in 2023, like still we haven't had like a more systematic kind of governance push internally or from a policy side to actually make a
Yeah.
change. And we all know we're living in the largest global garbage crisis of our lifetime. I mean, there's never
Yeah.
been more waste and trash on this planet than right here, right now, today. So I'm a little disheartened actually by the lack of longitudinal thinking from internally within big corporates that are in the FMCG space, because I just feel like it hasn't seen any innovation in the past 30 odd years. And they've kind of been just applying the same formula forever. I'm also not like a plastic hater. Like, I want to also clarify that because, like, if you look at the history of plastics, it was used a lot in world wars. It was used to keep the food of the soldiers intact and, fresh and whatever, and increase the shelf life, and that's great. And then kind of the post the World War, plastic kind of allowed maybe women to enter the workforce because for so long they had to kind of make everything from scratch and jam and whatever. And now it made it easy for you to procure a few things and made it possible for you also to have a career and kind of get out of the home. So I think it did something good for women there, and I think it's convenient, etc. But I think everything in moderation, and unfortunately we didn't know about the negative impacts of plastic at the time. We were just like, this is really versatile. But I just feel like that excuse doesn't hold anymore. Like, that was the 50s, and I just feel like we can't make those excuses anymore, and such a kind of definite, like, really defining time in this decade, I guess. So I think it's really important for us to stop making excuses and like really genuinely try and be part of the solution. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
For sure. And that was actually in tandem with the oil boom, right? As a byproduct, so much more oil, so much more byproduct. So availability was there. And then the second one was consumerism, right? We started becoming addicted to products. So availability of the resource and of the raw material, and demand for products, and then just exploded, went out of control. And I think that what really was a nail in the coffin is it's got that NIMBY problem, right? Not in my backyard. Company can produce it, but it's somebody else's problem to deal with. It'll go further down the value chain, never to be seen again in my backyard.
Exactly.
And because of that, incentives are just not aligned. So I think you hinted at policy being a really big lever to influence that. And while we all try to move and make more inroads into influencing policy over time within carbon, water, waste, etc., education is such a powerful lever, right?
Yeah.
One of the most powerful levers, because if you can convert a mind, or you can influence a mind in one home, that mind can influence the other people in their home, and then the ripple effect carries on. And you've taken a really, really big step in that direction with multiple initiatives, right? So you have your bare necessities workshops. You've even written a book, right? So talk to me about your educational journey, and like how are you talking to people? How are you communicating this? Why have you written a book? Why have you got these workshops that are running? Right? What has the impact been so far?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, actually policy really interests me. I'm a bit of a policy nerd. I also studied like environmental policy and political science and stuff. So yeah, I think for me, policy is such a great way to institutionalize solutions. Like, we can do something small, like, and create our business and, of course, have impact in our own small way. But should government say, every Anganwadi has to have solar energy. Every city needs to have an EV infrastructure. You just are institutionalizing the solution in such a big way right from the get-go and impacting obviously way more people. So I think policy is a really great tool to institutionalize things that are from sustainability lens, like institutionalized environmental policy. And for me, education is just such a powerful tool. It's also kind of quite close to my heart because my mom was really involved in like education initiatives when I was younger, especially for like local women and local girls. It was also for me growing up the only way that I thought that I could also kind of go up the ladder on a more like personal kind of note. Like I lost my dad when I was very little, and for me, like I knew I had to work really hard, get a full scholarship, and only then I could kind of do the things that I wanted to do in my life. So I really kind of believe very strongly about education. And when I first started, like I mentioned, I felt like there was like little awareness, but not so much that was easy for them to say, yeah, I want a bamboo toothbrush, or this soap makes sense, or this low waste kit, zero waste kit makes sense, etc. So for me, I thought first we should try and create awareness and make it just accessible, and then trying to build a product company that is really kind of trying to build a consumer brand that has people, planet, profit at heart, thinking about packaging. Why is that a little bit more expensive? All of those things can be communicated more easily if kind of people understand kind of the foundation of it. So for me, honestly, when the pandemic hit and you're not doing lots of these like speaking engagements, or you're not like doing so many social commitments with your family or friends or whatever, I just found that I had the time to put together some of my thoughts, and that was a great way to also put a lot of resources that I found in my low waste journey that I wish I knew about when I got started. So it's everything I wish I knew before I started my low waste journey, and a lot of the kind of solutions and resources are ones that maybe might not have a digital footprint as well. Like you might not find them on Instagram, it might be a local solution, etc. So the idea was also to create like a recipe book of sorts if you wanted to kind of start living more low waste, and that's like with solutions and recommendations and agencies and organizations across like donating shoes to repairing your clothes and shifting. So the idea was to kind of create like a resource. And then we also created online courses around sustainability, which was really fun, which was also another pandemic project, by the way, when supply chain was massively impacted, and we get our coconut oil from Kerala, we get our lavender from Kashmir, and we can't make any products. But I have a team and I need to kind of pay everyone's salaries. The conscious decision was not to lay off anyone, but to kind of create ways in which an alternative revenue stream can come in which we could kind of continue to exist and stay relevant. And honestly, it worked really well. It was really fun to create those online courses, and it's also very scalable. And right now we've actually worked with a couple of corporates to take our whole kind of course and just kind of embed it into their own learning management systems. So yeah, I think it's been like it's been super fun and really kind of gratifying to see like so many people like go through our courses, and the courses are really fun in accessible ways. They're not like school teacher lecture type. They're very like case studies. These amazing solutions exist in India. It's also quite India centric, because we do find that there's lots of content around circular economy or sustainability that tends to be quite European centric or North American centric. So I was really like excited to kind of show these amazing examples of local solutions that are doing amazing work, whether that's urban planning or reusable packaging or paper packaging, paper tapes, waste management. So the idea was to kind of just put together, honestly, it's actually all of the people I love, respect, and admire just in our course all together at once. And that was kind of how that came about.
And it's primarily for enterprises who are looking to introduce an employee-specific
Honestly, it's for anyone.
Sustainability journey.
Yeah, so you can, anyone. We find that there are young professionals who are looking to transition to more sustainability careers who take our course. We find young moms randomly taking our course. lots of young professionals. CSR heads tell me that it's good to kind of get everyone on the same page, because maybe the product designers really know sustainability, but the sales team also needs to speak the same language or understand why it was designed using reclaimed wood or whatever, So this kind of the sustainability teams tell me that it's a great way to just level up the playing field and knowledge internally. So yeah, the course is really for everyone. We've even had like this really cute 50-year-old woman who's from a finance background, but who's taken our courses, and she's like a CA, and she's just really cute. And there's a community, so you can actually answer questions, and people be like, oh, where is the zero waste stone Pune, and then people will respond, and we'll respond. So it's really nice to kind of see that kind of element of community come alive as well. But speaking of community, oh my god, I forgot, the workshops are really fun because it's a great way to meet people and see them in person. And it's kind of usually a 45 1-hour minute workshop, and then everyone just kind of hangs out for the next few hours after over coffee or with books. And I think that's a really great way also to kind of create awareness, because the idea is with each workshop we end with a DIY where you make it yourself. So whether you get your hands dirty, whether you're learning how to compost, or you're making a product, or you're converting an old t-shirt into a tote bag, something small but something tangible that you kind of go back home with.
Yeah.
That's also kind of a reminder. So yeah, I really love the workshops element. It's one of my favorite parts of the job.
Making sustainability fun and not just educational, but like actionable, right? I think that's so important over here too, that you should be able to leave with something you've done and take it back so you have a memory, and then maybe you want to do more of it.
Yeah.
Right? And I think the focus on materials is really exciting because there's so many alternate materials coming up now, like algae based, mycelium based, and other food materials that are far better than plastic for similar usage. So really I think it's turned like combining it into an arts and crafts playful experience is a really cool idea, really powerful.
Speaking of alternative materials,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just like a side note on alternative materials, that's also something that really gives me a lot of hope. Obviously, like hemp, seaweed, they're so regenerative. They kind of, really kind of are in alignment with kind of circular economy principles. And actually, we've done some experiments. The new products that we launched, we were going to do it in seaweed, and then we tested over time. But the seaweed was allowing basically microbial growth. So it like fungus and bacteria were growing, and it was making the solution more viscous. Like it would increase the viscosity so much that it became really thick. We weren't able to use it in that product, but I love kind of what's happening in the space. And there are some amazing companies that are using seaweed sachets for their jams and sauces, and for food delivery, like with Just Eat and stuff like that. So that's really kind of interesting to see. And hemp, of course, I'm a huge fan of. But I saw that you had a couple of kind of, you had Mansi on the show, so I'm sure she spoke more about hemp. But yeah, I think that's something that's also really interesting about how we can just use materials that are way more sustainable from a design perspective. So even our sachets, they're on craft paper, which is compostable. And on the inside, we have actually a proprietary blend of like tree resin on the inside that makes it moisture proof. And even the cork, we've waxed it, so again it makes it helps make it moisture proof. So there's a couple of things that it's more effort, it takes more time, it adds up the cost, but I think it's something that is so worth doing in terms of as we think about redesign.
So are you guys scouting out all these materials based companies, or are they finding you and then saying, hey, like you have a product company, we're looking for an end utility for our material, and it's a great fit? Like, which one is it? Because I think materials are a huge, I keep using the word lever because it is these input levers that make a big impact on society. I think materials is going to be a huge lever too. And we need to spur a lot more innovation in the space, incentivize far more people to want to go and do R&D and materials, ocean-based, land-based, all of it. And then, turn it into useful product. That's when there'll be a lot of demand. So how are you doing that?
Honestly, it's a lot of it. It's a combination, but I would say more us researching companies and saying, hey, can we use it for this? Can you give us a sample? These are our specifications. Then the other way around.
Got it. So a little segue over here. I would love to understand from you, in your journey, you bare necessities is one part of it. You previously were even with, I think it was Selco, right?
Yeah.
For your solo journey. Along the way, you've come across a lot of influences. Uh, who are some people, individuals who you've been incredibly influenced by?
Mm.
We'll go stakeholder at a time, but let's start with some individuals.
Oh wow, that's a big one. But I honestly love Poonam to death, like from Daily Dump. She's in Bangalore. I think my first pop-up was at Poonam's office in Daily Dump, was turning 13 or something at the time. And she's just always puts things in perspective, and she's also started thinking about composting at a time when it was the least sexy thing on this planet. So props to her. I love Shekhar and Nalini from Hasidullah. They're just the kindest, and whenever I have a doubt around like structuring or something, I literally never hesitate to just hop on a call with Shekhar and Nalini. So I really love them. Yeah, I think if I had to name just few, that's I would name them. They have lots of
So these are
companies.
Gen Z individual Gen Z change makers. What about Gen Z brands? Which brands do you think are purpose-driven brands that are making significant impact? Doesn't have to be waste, could be waste, water, carbon, anything. Or they could just be a great consumer brand that is purpose-driven, right?
Oh gosh, that's a long list for me. I love No Nasties. I love Relove. I mean, making a tech solution for making, clothes to be more circular is really amazing. I love, the Blue Smart, Yulu, Be Live. I love Anisha's Without Sunglasses.
Yeah.
They're somewhere here. I love Subco Coffee. I love Doodleage. Clothing is a long list for me. Like I love Sui, Nicobar. There's this amazing brand called Uvacha, and they work with women who've been kind of in very difficult circumstances prior to, and make the clothes. There's another brand called Kalaari that grows with you, so they have different buttons at different stages. So if you the women's body changes 31 times, so it's really
I did
nice.
not know about this.
Yeah, so it literally grows with you. You have some extra buttons here and there. Summer House. All of my Summer House clothing I think are like 6 years old or so. They're just so timeless. Sirohi, they're using wrappers to then weave it out and make these really amazing baskets and organizers. Banaras. Ikidi, they're a platform with lots of the amazing kind of slow fashion brands under it. India Hemp & Co. Camp Monk, that makes like outdoors and camping experiences easy and accessible. Similar to Nowhere Travel, Beach makes amazing cork bags. Their suppliers are all B Corp certified. Patagonia, of course, is kind of like a great example that everyone truly loves. There's Burlap People. There's lots of amazing
The list goes on.
Yeah.
So what do you think are the common traits, personality traits between these companies that bind them together? What is it that you find in common?
These brands are very authentic to who they are. They are trying to be sustainable, and they're very authentic in communicating what they're trying. And I really love the more information I find on a website about suppliers, who's making it, what material they're using, the more trust I immediately have in the brand. So I think what I love is the transparency and creating a solution as well that is making sustainability the default choice. So that's, I think, the common theme between all of these amazing brands that I love.
That's wonderful. So for you, the transparency of their supply chain is a clear indicator of are they walking the talk or not?
Yeah, definitely.
Right? Where the material is coming from, who they employed in their value chain, are they clearly communicating it?
Yeah.
Got it. That's wonderful. I think more and more companies have to get on that bandwagon now too.
Yeah.
And it's great when it's actually driven intrinsically rather than extrinsically. Companies that are forced into having to do it for compliance or because the investor said so, you can kind of tell in how they communicate it and how truly they live those values.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I'm really proud to share that Ben Necessities is on track to be B Corp certified. We're kind of 2 years in the
Wow.
process. We have all of our like vendor agreements. We have a supplier code of conduct. So every supplier we work with, we tell them that these are our values, and there are things that are against armaments, there are against things that are around, child labor protections, but also about like how they package and send us the products. So there's lots kind of in there. It's a long process and it takes a lot of effort, but I think it's really well worth it. And yeah, I'm a big fan of the B
That's
Corp.
really cool. I mean, you guys will be one of the only B Corp
Yeah,
in India,
yeah,
right?
hopefully
That's
that's.
wonderful. Great news. What do you think is the role of investors as Gen Z investors in this space? See, climate action sustainability is very, very wide. There's
Yeah,
carbon, water, waste, air pollution, all of it, right? But what is their role? Because now it's suddenly becoming really exciting for a whole lot of investors in the last year and a half, 2 years.
yeah. I think everyone is realizing that we have infinite time to try and make impact. We have to push the needle on the environment, and I think a lot of the investors also have kids like you and me who are on their case or asking them questions. Around like, oh, this about your portfolio company, or like, this is how we consume at home, but how come that's not reflective in your portfolio? I can't tell you, Ani, how many times I've spoken to a person, like an investor, and they said, you know what? I love what you're building. We have bare necessities at home. My wife love it. But in terms of an investor, I'm not quite there yet. I think the market
Mm.
it's a little too niche, or not sure the addressable market is big enough. And uh, the I think the shift really needs to happen where the products that you actually use at home are the ones that you also want to kind of invest in. And I think that you have to really kind of look at companies with the people, planet, profit bottom line. This one single way of what you can reflect in an Excel spreadsheet is just so like not 2023, and that's not gonna that's not gonna do any of us good. What's the point if you have some excellent returns but have only 1 year on this planet left? It just makes no sense to me. So I think the role of the investors are to be a little bit more mindful and take some of those risks and bets on some more circular businesses. Of course, climate tech is becoming a huge thing, but really just kind of actually putting your money where your values are at, and actually putting kind of investment, and not just on a glossy CSR report that you put out at the end of the year, but like genuinely how many of your portfolio companies or having targets around it, and just kind of communicating that too, right? And you can say that, you can communicate and be real and say, you know what, I'm going to start with just one portfolio company being sustainable this year, and but do that, make a commitment, say it out loud, and then kind of come through it. That's what I just really love and respect. Even Patagonia, for example, like the big iconic "Don't buy this jacket" kind of ad that went viral. They were just so good in their communication. They said, you know what, by keeping our doors open on this big shopping day, because we are a growing business, we have salaries to pay and stakeholders as well, and we need to keep continuing to grow, but by also telling you to be mindful and buy that jacket only if you need it, right? And I think that's something I really appreciate, like authenticity in your communication and actually like sticking by it and kind of coming through on that. So I think the role of the investors is to come through on those commitments beyond the glossy CSR reports.
Have you read Let My People Go Surfing
I love
by
it.
Ion Chouinard? It's
Yeah.
one of my favorite books too. And it's so authentic, right?
Yeah.
That they actually truly believe what they do preach out in the world. Like, don't buy this jacket.
Yeah.
Right? I think that comes through with every part of the value chain. I think it's incredible. It really has set a benchmark for a whole lot of other brands to also want to be purpose-driven brands and then have a playbook for how to become purpose-driven brands.
Yeah.
And so the last stakeholder in society, which is the government, circling back to a topic you love, which is policy. Policy of the government, what is their role? And how, like, what sort of a timeline do you feel it's going to take to get them to really be proactive about facilitating more sustainable choice? And do you think there are examples out there where they have already done so?
Yeah.
Like for electric cars, biofuels, etc. And where are they lacking?
Yeah. I think if they could policy is a great like a great lever to like institutionalize these changes, and I think it's done really well in many things. Like just think about a non-sustainable example for a hot second. When they basically made a rule that you have to put on your seatbelt or you get a fine, right? A policy plus a financial lever made implementation a breeze. And now it's literally default. Does anyone ever get into their car without putting on their seatbelt? I think they have to just use the same thing to sustainability. They have to make a policy that's bold, yes, that's in line with kind of what their their targets are, and kind of what we talk about in all of the COP agreements, etc. Then create a financial lever, and that could be through like polluters pay principle. It could be through fines. It could be also the other way around, where you're giving tax rebates and lower taxation slabs for sustainable businesses if they're doing the right thing in alignment with those targets of yours, right? And there becomes default. So that's, for me, that's the kind of the formula that they should be using. Policy, implementation lever with a financial rebate or a payment, and I think that's the quickest way to institutionalize it.
That's amazing. So behavior change, we've actually captured all of behavior change right now, because if you have great product that by design is sustainable from source, not from end of life, then it's communicated in a way that it's easy to adopt. It's economically viable, it's fun to do. Then you have policy levers that influence its adoption, right? Mass scale adoption.
Exactly.
And then you have brands that are also living purposely and communicating like what all has gone in the supply chain of this. You've got a really neat ecosystem that promotes the planet first.
Exactly.
Do you think it's starting to happen now, or are we still like a long way from that?
I mean, in pockets, but I would love for it to be a little bolder and a little bit more top-down. I think we definitely need to use financial kind of mechanisms more to see what that happens. Yeah, let's see how it goes.
So if we only have the next 7-year window, let's say up to 2030, what is Bare Necessities' role in making that happen? What is Sahar's individual role in making that happen? Give me both.
Okay, I'll go with individual. That's easier. So personally, I do try and live a low waste lifestyle. It's definitely not perfect, but in whatever ways we can, we segregate our waste at home. I purchased an EV car last year. That's how I commute. I had a low waste wedding. My partner and I bought Climes to offset our flight for that. Yeah, and whenever I take a flight, actually, I get some Climes and kind of offset via that. Our travel is largely kind of non-hotel travel and mostly like local travel that really kind of supports local economy, but also gives you a nice experience of culture and a sense of space and being. Farmers markets, whether it's good old Russell market of Bangalore or more flea markets, trying to just kind of support local businesses that are in alignment with my values, but also kind of keeping carbon footprint low instead of kind of e-commerce all the time. And lab-grown diamond was another thing.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah.
Is that a lab-grown diamond? Amazing! Wow. That's so cool. I'm really, really happy that like we're moving into that future. There's an article that the Atlantic put out in the 90s. It's still one of my favorite articles from ever. It's called "Have You Ever Tried to Sell a Diamond?" And it's about how De Beers created the diamond cartel from the 1930s onward, and how it was actually built on like Goebbels' ideas that turned into propaganda ideas and led to like the birth of the American advertising industry, and how we just all started believing that this commodity has so much value.
Yeah.
And now we're finally like, walking out of the matrix, going back into acknowledging the real price of what that mining leads to.
Yeah.
And lab-grown diamonds are making a comeback. I love it. Nobody ever says a lab-grown diamond is a sustainable choice. I'm just saying, like,
it definitely is. It's made in the lab. It's non-polluting. It has no kind of legacy of oh gosh, human rights violations, environmental violations in the process of mining, etc. So yeah, it's definitely a more sustainable option. It's not perfect because there is an energy component to it that could be lower, unless that company is also using renewables. It's even better.
Renewables. Yeah. When we have nuclear fusion, then lab-grown diamonds will be on point. But no, that's a lot. That's a lot you're already currently doing. I think the next 7 years is only you're just getting started. You're gonna start doubling down, tripling down, I'm sure. And I think that beacon that you put out for others to also learn from and then adopt or take that first step toward a more sustainable lifestyle. I think it's a really, really powerful instigator force that you have in society. So thank you for what you do.
Oh, sure.
Where do you think you need help? Like, what can people out there help you with in reaching this goal?
Yeah, I think finance is a really powerful way to just accelerate growth. And I think, if we were to be more mindful about how we invest in more sustainable businesses to just become the default, that would be really powerful, as not just for me, but I think for the sector. I'm actually really sad the amount of kind of sustainable brands I've seen close in just the past year has actually made me very, very, sad, because that could be financed from an investor point of view, sure, but could also be financed from a consumer point of view. Like, if we aren't creating a demand for those good kind of quality products, and there's something fundamentally wrong. So yeah, I think just being more mindful that we are actually voting with our money and our wallets is, I think, one kind of thing that's really important in the sustainability movement, for me at least. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it did. It did in an individual way. I was wondering where Bare Necessities could also get the next big stepping stone, and if there's anyone out there who can provide it, who would do it?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Bare Necessities, we have a nice product pipeline in the mix, which we're really excited by. Really trying to champion this waterless and solid formats because it's more lightweight, it makes more sense on various ways. So I think the next phase is going to be product. It's going to be innovation, it could be packaging, it could be in the form of investment, it could be in distributionship. Honestly, I'm always happy to collaborate and hear how we can do things together and just be bigger and bolder and better. So
amazing. Climate action is not a zero-sum game, as we all know who've been in the space working on it. It's truly a collaborative effort, and it's going to take all hands on deck to get us to a safer, cleaner, fairer, better future. And I think if we look at this limited timeline we have, 5-7 years, we really need a lot more shots at goal. So thank you for the work you do. Love that Bare Necessities exists as a brand in championing the cause for a very long time, and even creating the market, to a large extent. I think you started being the first litmus test for, is there a generation climate out there or not? And now it's definitely built a lot more than what it used to be earlier. Thank you so much for your time too today. It's been really, really great talking to you.
No, thank you so much for having me, and massive congratulations on everything you're doing in building Climes. I love seeing your journey. I hope that our, the company that we work with, the forest that we've been donating for the past 3 years, they've created this beautiful green patch in the middle of a desert to kind of create a more tiny forest. And I'm really keen for them to also get on Climes. And as much as we wanted to kind of integrate it from a Bare Necessities point of view, we were like, I would feel bad to kind of stop investing in the company that I have been for the past 3 years to kind of offset. So my goal is for them to become one of your projects. So I'm still not giving up on that one.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen for sure. Thank you so much, Sahar. What a wonderful conversation.